Today, we have a very special guest with us, Khalid. Khalid is a high school student who has achieved remarkable success in his academic and personal pursuits.
Hello, could you please tell me about yourself?
Hello, I am Khalid. I am an 11th grader. I live in Istanbul, Turkey, and I am a student.
And could you please tell me about your background, your home country, and so on?
I am from the beautiful country of Sudan, running through the Nile River. I grew up in the country of Qatar for 9 years and came to Turkey about 2 or 3 years ago. I came here to pursue my high school education, and I find myself to be a good English student.
That's very good. Could you tell me also about Sudan and Qatar and about education system in those two countries and how students generally learned at that time, specifically different languages?
I did not have a lot of experience with my home country, Sudan. I only grew up there for 5 years. However, I did go through 9 years of education in the country of Qatar. The education there is very rich and very profound and very satisfying and rewarding to oneself. However, I would like to mention that I did not study a native Qatari school. I studied in an Indian international school, which taught in English, which is how I learned English for the first time.
All right, that's good. And how do you compare English with your native language?
My native language is Arabic, and so the comparisons go to where there is no end. I do find my native language to be more expressive. However, I am more comfortable with English.
Thank you. What is your favorite class or subject in school and why?
I would count myself to be a jack of all trades. However, if there is one subject that I am particularly good at, it would be English, considering my background. And yeah.
All right. And let's talk about your personality as well. How do you think high school has changed you as a person?
Our surroundings change us along with our environments. And so I think that the impact that I've had from high school, from middle school, and from primary school has changed my personality at school. And even if I did get my education elsewhere, I think my character would be completely different.
All right. And one of the issues that we have in high schools is bullying. What do you think is the best way to address bullying and harassment in schools?
I don't think that there's a better way to solve it than just helping the students express to each other their own feelings and avoid conflicts.
And let's talk about also your opinion about sports and athletic part of the school. What is your opinion on the role of sports and athletics in high school?
It's the very first stepping stone of every great athlete to at least be a representative of his school. I mean, you can see many people such as, you know, this person, Oliver Ike. He's a Japanese player and he had to represent himself in his school as a striker and then become a defender for his national team in Japan.
That's good, interesting. And let's also talk about mental health and wellness. How do you think high schools can better support mental health and wellness for students?
Supplying the feeling of not being alone is very essential to one's mental health. If one feels alone, one will fall into depression, is what I think.
Let's continue with technology. What is your opinion on the use of technology in the classroom?
It's probably the biggest step that we took to better our education as high schools and as middle schools. Technology is literally everywhere these days, and it's inescapable, and that's not a bad thing. Accepting technology as a part of our lives will only make them a better tool for us.
That's good, very thoughtful answer. And also let's talk about future. How do you think high schools can better prepare students for the workforce?
For the what?
For the workplaces in the future?
Better, I think that high schools are doing what they need to do at the moment to make us join the workforce. However, I do not think, no, it's not that they're doing it badly, it's that I think that it's not what they're supposed to do. Making students join workforces is only going to make them employees, not employers. And at this point in time, we're not running out of employees. As a matter of fact, unemployment is a rising issue in the world, but employers could fix everything. I do think that it should be at least considered fairly up against the creation of manpower.
Could you elaborate on it a bit more and provide some examples?
I can't provide any examples. However, as I said, unemployment is just a big issue. Making employers will fix it. I do think that's gonna come with its own set of problems, such as lack of resources or lack of monetary power. However, for the short term at least, I do think it will make this world a bit of a better place.
Thank you. And let's talk about teenagers and their problems. What do you think is the biggest misconception about teenagers?
The biggest misconception about teenagers? Well, there's a lot of things that are misunderstood about teenagers. But as for misconceptions, many people think that teenagers are supposed to have already planned out their entire life by the 9th grade, even though they just got out of middle school. I do think that teenagers need a bit more support, or at least a bit more of a chance or better guidance than what they already have at the moment, from parents and teachers alike, I would say.
That was a very good point that you mentioned. And let's move on to creativity and innovation. How do you think high schools can encourage creativity and innovation?
Well, things come from nowhere, and when you make things, more things come out of them. And even though that doesn't make sense at first, it does make sense when you think of it. However, those things that come out of the first creation are not always most creative. That's why bringing students up from nothing will give them a bigger field to play on.
That was also a good point. All right, let's continue with the learning styles. As you might have observed, each student has a different style. How do you think high schools can better support students with different learning styles?
Again, it's just provision of different styles, provision of an empty space where students can apply their creativity. And with creativity comes life. In that life, we can find out what we want to learn and what we want to discover.
All right. And let's talk about homework. What is your opinion on the use of homework and its effectiveness?
As for effectivity, Lord knows better. I don't think that homework is a very good idea. It was originally created in England as a punishment to those students who would not do their own classwork. And now homework are just harder thing, most of the time a hindering thing for a lot of skills. Though I do not think of it as negatively as I have expressed, I do think that there is a better way to integrate homework into our school.
Could you provide an example?
Maybe replacing homeworks with 2 big projects. If there are 5 homeworks per school quarter, there could be 2 projects instead of those, plus the original project that was already planned for this quarter.
And how about learning from YouTube or probably other platforms? Some teachers prepare some videos or probably a course on different platforms and share with their students. What's your opinion on them?
Keep up the good work, everyone. I think it is a wonderful thing that teachers do this and help students in a platform that does not contain most of its creators. So, what I think.
All right, thank you. And I remember in one of your answers, you talked about also future. But I want to ask a specific question. How do you think high schools can better prepare students for the real world beyond academics?
I heard someone previously talk about provision of activities. I think provision of workshops and the such and the similar things would help a lot of students, especially in gaining some sort of experience. Even if there is no such workshops in schools, I do see many students working around in part-time jobs in order to write it down on their CVs that they have work experience, which is the thing that is sought for out the most in common workplaces today. Experience.
That's good. And my last question is about leadership role in high school. What is your opinion on the role of student leadership in high school?
I do think that any students would want leadership. They would want someone, well, they would not want it, but they would need it. They would need someone to follow, someone to guide them. And even though most of the time they look up to their teachers, looking up to one's fellow student is not a bad thing, is what I think. And I do think that maybe they should be given a few more roles as student council presidents and class presidents and similar roles. Their roles are very minimalistic. I think they deserve a bit more to prove themselves.
Thank you. This is the end of this episode. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure, sir.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed our conversation with Khalid and found it inspiring. If you did, please share this podcast with your friends and family. And don't forget to like and comment under the podcast to let us know your thoughts. We'll be back next Friday with another episode of our weekly podcast series, so make sure to check it out. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.